All right, we're live. EPL match day 20. Limbs is back. So we took a little month and a half long hiatus there around the World Cup and the holidays and everything else. But we got a big weekend this weekend. So we're back at it. Sam's Army is with us. Za is in Zimbabwe. So he hasn't returned from the motherland yet. So he's ducking you because you guys would have been head to head this weekend. But Sam, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm good. Rested, rejuvenated. The World Cup was awesome, but listen, it's back to business. So let's go make some monies.
Yeah, this was the World Cup. Like I love the game. I've been watching the game forever. But this, I've used the line where it's like I've always watched, but I've never really paid attention. I've been really trying to like learn and understand and like try to like pick up little nuggets. What the World Cup taught me, because I was watching soccer every single day, multiple hours a day for a month, was that I don't really know fucking anything. That's the conclusion I've reached. So I'm essentially going to be flying blind. Hopefully not for the rest of my life, but that is kind of how I feel. But that's why we have you here to be the expert, to teach me more things, to tell me to shut up and that I'm stupid and don't do that. So thank you for being on being a part of the show.
I've got no problem telling you to shut the F up if I feel that way. But you listen, a wise man once said, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. I might be paraphrasing that, but
sure,
you're getting there. You're getting there. That's what it's all about.
Maybe I'm the smartest one of us all.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is a big week. We're jumping right back into it. We're over the halfway mark. We're into the second transfer window now. Forrest is already active again, so we got two Brazilians in the fold, maybe more coming. So Forrest just doing what Forrest does. They did part ways with my guy, the best American.
I saw that. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it was an untenable situation there where there are way too many cooks in the kitchen, and maybe certain people were promised certain things that ownership didn't deliver on, and the ownership is, it's their team. They're spending a lot of money, which I appreciate, but it's one of those things. You hired somebody to do a job, maybe you should let them do it. And so I think this is a mutual parting. I think all the words over there for professional sports are just a little bit off, but they called it mutual consent. Like we both want out of this relationship. So he's going to go on to greener pastures, and hopefully, and he left Forrest in a way better position than he found it. Like that to me is like, this team had been wandering the desert for 23 years outside the Premier League. Dane Murphy shows up, and within 18 months they're back in. So I don't think that's a coincidence. And now it's, I think it's something that Forrest will regret in the long term. But we'll see how it goes. They still have Steve Cooper. They still have, I think, good bones of a team that can be staying in the Premier League. So yeah, like I'm sad. If I'm going to go over to a game this year, it's going to be now a lot harder for me to get tickets. so has
tax,
Dane,
baby.
yeah. So Dane was the guy who hooked up the Wembley game in May. So yeah, I love Dane Murphy, and I think it's going to be, and I'm like a little personally sad, a little personally disappointed, but I think it's going to be a better situation for him, and hopefully Forrest can, I'm fearful that this will be an ongoing cycle, regardless of who is in the top position, that they're going to butt heads at some point with ownership after a little bit of a losing streak or whatever. And then we'll be doing the whole cycle perpetually. That's my fear. And if you look at how things were run, in with their team in Greece, there's lots of evidence to point that, that might come to fruition. But I do think Forrest is in a good spot. I love Steve Cooper, and since we last spoke, they have climbed out of the relegation zone. They're all the way up to 15th. And they have a stretch of games here where they need results. I feel like the next 4, 5, 6 games will decide if they're staying up or not, because the run in April and May gets pretty challenging. So big slate. It starts tomorrow. Starts tomorrow morning with Leicester. Kind of a regional Midlands derby a little bit. It feels like there's a few of those going on this weekend. But yeah, that's something we could talk about a little bit later. But obviously, the biggest game of the weekend, bright and early, Chicago time, 6:30 kick, the Manchester Derby. Man City going to Manchester United. Sam, what do you have on that game?
Well, I'm going to fight you on it being the biggest game of the weekend, by the way, because I think the North London Derby is. But of course, I'm a little biased on that.
You are biased.
What I just sort of do know is that this is an awesome weekend for games.
Mm-hmm.
So the Manchester Derby, awesome, obviously. North London Derby, awesome, obviously. There's a Brighton Liverpool game, which sort of low key should be a lot of fun. There's other games actually on the slate that won't be so good. What?
Can we get that mic a little bit closer to you?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
My first time on air here, apparently. So the games, the slate is awesome. Not just the top ones, which everybody knows about, but Brighton, Liverpool should be great. Wolves, West Ham should be absolutely terrible, but it's hugely important.
Yep.
And so there's other games. But let's start with the Manchester Derby, as you said. So this game, and actually, by the way, I'm just cutting myself off here. There's a Friday game, which people probably, they probably won't get to this in time.
But Villa and Leeds,
Villa and Leeds. That game is going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Manchester Derby. So listen, we got to give Manchester United some credit here. Like, they're actually good. The post Ronaldo, Manchester United, Erik ten Hag deserves a lot of credit for what he's done with this team in a really short time. And I think they've won 7 in a row, I believe. Mm-hmm. They just look good. They look like they're playing as a team, as opposed to a bunch of talented but sort of directionless players. It's just a new thing. It's a new era. If there isn't a turning point that I can point to, but his decision to bench Marcus Rashford a couple games ago for the first half, he was apparently late for a meeting or something, overslept. His decision to bench Marcus Rashford for that game, in retrospect, sort of just encapsulates his geniusness, his Midas touch with this team, right? The team didn't play great in the first half. Rashford came on in the second half and scored. They won the game. And, Ten Hag goes, down looking like an absolute genius for it. Rashford, water under the bridge. He scored the goal. He's actually he's one of the hottest players in the league right now.
On fire. Yeah.
So everything is going their way at the moment. And I think Ten Hag deserves a lot of credit. The players deserve a lot of credit. Now we get to the Manchester Derby, though.
Well, it's in Old Trafford.
Yeah. I don't know if that's good for them or not, but
the line is Manchester United at home playing as well as they have, plus 295 against Man City. So Man City minus 115. So it is like they're playing great, but it's like, how much do you believe it? Are they good enough you think they're good enough to clip it? Is there enough value there for you where you're going to go with the home side?
It's interesting. We talked about this on the Sam's Army podcast, and I don't know if we talked each other into it, but we basically decided it's going to be a goal fest. And, where the goals are going to come from, none of us really knew. Probably Erling Haaland, maybe Marcus Rashford. There's guys on both teams that can score. This City team confuses me. I don't really know what I think about them right now. I know I'm scared of Erling Haaland. I'm just scared of him. Like, he's just a scary human being.
Imposing Viking-looking dude.
Yeah. I'm legitimately frightened by him. Just the thought of him. The City team outside of him, though, they don't scare me in the way that the City normally does.
It does feel like they should be better.
Yeah, well, Pep usually has all these talent. He always has a lot of talent wherever he goes, and he usually has them playing up to their potential. They do not feel like they're playing even up to their potential at this point, let alone beyond it. Losing to Southampton in the League Cup, obviously it's League Cup. It's not everything. It's not the be all end all, but
it's not
that's a symptom of problems.
Every other team in the semifinal is an elite side. So, I mean, I don't So it's you want to be in that group. Those are like historically great programs in the League Cup semifinal. So, Forest, Man United, Newcastle, like you want to see that. So that they should have rounded out the 4. Now what is it, Southampton? So it's a little disappointing that Man City's not in there with the other big dogs.
It is.
Yeah.
And losing to Southampton in anything right now is a sign of problems. Southampton is not scaring anybody. So how this game is going to go, you asked sort of the value. I do see value in United at home, playing as well as they are. I think that just given those odds, I would be hard pressed not to at least think about it. If I'm actually going to bet it, I like goals, and
So you like the over?
I like the over. If I was gonna go one way or the other.
And so the over, obviously the line is 2.5, but that's -148. Are you saying so many goals that you would push the over to 3.5?
I wouldn't hammer it, but
that gets you to 170.
Plus 170, right?
Plus 170, yeah.
I do think there's value there. But City and the last time they played, City scored, I think, 6 just by themselves.
Yeah.
But
that was a long time ago.
That was a different United team.
Yeah.
So maybe the 2.5 and parlay it with like Erling Haaland to score, because there's no keeping him off the scoreboard. I think at this point. So I don't know what you get with the odds of those combined, because I think he's like -125 or something to score. So maybe that's the way I go.
Let me ask you this, since it seems like you like United a little bit, you like the value. A draw is also plus 295. If you parlay that with over 3.5, so basically saying like we're gonna have a 2-2 draw. It's basically what we're saying.
Yeah,
that's plus 1,000. I don't hate that. Just following your logic in that game, moving the line to 3.5 because it's goals, according to you.
Goals.
And two teams that it's going to be hotly contested. United gets the benefit of being at home. That pushes you to a 2-2 draw, and that's plus 1,000. So
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I don't hate that either at that value. And then you can just have the fun of rooting for goals, and who cares who wins? It's just we don't want a winner, but we just want a good competitive game. I think you talked me into that one.
Okay. All right. So if I was gonna, I kind of like that. I think you talked me into it. I don't know if we're talking to each other into this, but I like the sort of the over and parlay it with the draw as your sort of long shot. But if I was gonna go sort of something more meat and potatoes, over 2.5. And if you want to get just a little spicy, just parlay it with Erling Haaland to score.
All right. What else you got? What's another game that you're like, this is my number 1 A+ bet?
Well, if people are watching in time, that Villa Leeds game on Friday, game
we're live, so the people watching, will know that this is the game to bet.
Listen, that game kicks off at 2, so we got another. I don't know. I can say 45 minutes. Yeah, perfect. I think both teams are scoring the over. My go-to bet. That screams just like yes. We'll be going top shelf tonight. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. So again, just that though.
Yeah, I just in that game, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that there's goals coming. I don't know who's going to win that game. It's another one where Villa is a team. I just don't sort of feel like I have a sense of what they are right now. Leeds, I do know. They're just going to come out. They're going to score, and they're going to get scored on. And, so what Villa does, I'm not sure. But I think that's why I would sort of I hesitate to go with the Villa's going to win or Leeds is going to win. You put a gun to my head, I would say Villa in a goal fest, but I don't know.
All right, so it sounds like you're going back to our classic both teams to score in the over.
I love it.
That parlay is even money. It's plus 100. So if you're looking for a little taste on a Friday, get yourself to even money, root for some goals, and I think you're right. I think those teams will deliver those goals, and I will be pulling for Villa because now it's to the point of the season where Jesse Marsch is great. I love Tyler Adams, especially after that World Cup, but I need some teams to kind of start coming this way, back towards that relegation zone and force to keep going up. So Villa, make your way to Europa Cup, get 3 points today. What else for the weekend? Because like you said, Arsenal, Spurs, huge monster game. The other 2 games, we had 2 games this weekend featuring top 5 teams. So in the standings. So what do you have there? I mean, try to be unbiased as possible.
Yeah. So my unbiased take
I wish Za was here for this.
Maybe I'll give Zaz take first, and that's that. Arsenal's playing so well, and Tottenham's looked just absolutely shitty, to be honest with you.
Yep.
The big question here for me is if Kulusevski is ready, because we've been missing Kulusevski, Betancourt, and Richarlison for basically since God knows how long at this point. Feels like years. If we can get Kulusevski especially back, I really have a much more optimistic view of this game. Without Kulusevski, I just don't think that I don't think we can win this game. We talked about it on the podcast. The guys I was talking with one was an Arsenal fan, one was a Liverpool fan. They both said, and I don't think that they were, trying to reverse jinx us, as Mikey Fowler likes to do.
Yep.
They think that Tottenham had a really good shot at this one. I just don't. Without Kulusevski, I will go into it scared, like just plain and simple. At home, I know.
Yeah,
I'll go into it scared. With Kulusevski, this team feels different, and yeah, I think that we could perhaps win, perhaps draw. But listen, Arsenal, I've been sort of talking them down all season. You got to give them some credit, though.
They're fucking awesome.
They're kind of fun to watch, except for the fact that I hate their guts. And they're a good team, and they've gone on the road. They've beaten teams.
They kind of look and have been as dominant the way that I expected Man City. Like, remember Man City started the year where it's like they're going to be unstoppable with the first couple games of the year where they're just pumping in goals. Yeah. And then it felt like since then they've kind of taken their foot off the gas. Arsenal just seems like they get better and better every week.
I'm waiting for, they lost Gabriel Jesus. I was hoping and thinking and praying. Yeah. Listen, I'm never rooting for injuries. But the injuries did happen. Yeah. It was just a fact. Yeah. It happened. And I thought that might, trip them up a little bit. So far, it has not.
Yep.
And so I guess I just got to give them a little credit and admit that for the first time in years, really, we go into this game, a North London derby, where I legitimately do not feel very good about it. It's been a while.
I feel like when you're not feeling good, that's the time to bet on Spurs. I'm not going to do it. Like you haven't, you've undersold it way more. That's why I wish Za was here to talk shit, and then you would feel.
I would get defensive. I would absolutely get defensive.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the 2 marquee games. And I love the fact that it's going to be a great weekend of sports. It's wild card weekend in the NFL. You wake up, you really legitimately have on Saturday and Sunday 12, 14 hours of like big time sports to watch both days this week. So I think some of the boys might be heading to the bar this weekend. So we're gonna on Sunday. So I think it's gonna be a good time. We'll make sure we have the end of the Spurs game on, because it is of interest, and it feels like that's eventually, if you want to pass United here, you're going to have to start getting points where you might not expect some. It's kind of like the reverse of the Forest position, where it's like, yeah, they're underdogs, but they need to find a result against some teams that have been playing better than them, because it doesn't look like that Manchester United locomotive is slowing down.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we got to start with just, beating teams like Villa and Brentford and, the Forest. We got to start with those games before we, worry too much about United and Arsenal and Newcastle. But yeah, you're right. Like,
depends on where you want to end up.
Yeah, we're not where we want to be. I'm actually just shocked we are even close to where I want to be right now in this season. This season has felt so depressing, so frustrating, and yet we're still in 5th place. So it could be worse.
Yeah, you're right. It does feel like Spurs. It's almost in my head, if you're thinking of like the top teams in the Premier League historically, when I think of Spurs, I feel like they're having a season similar to Chelsea, where Chelsea they can't get out of neutral. They fired the general man, or they fire who they fire? I'm blanking on his name.
Tuchel.
Right. Thank you. And then they bring in Potter. There was a meme going around of Potter where his first day at Chelsea, he's got the turtleneck. He looks like, unbelievable glow up, and then they show him from the past weekend, and he looks like shit. Like
the bags under his eyes,
hair disheveled, just drenched in rain, and it's like fuck, like it's really taking it out of this guy. And even though like clearly Spurs are having a better season than Chelsea, in my brain, they're both like taking a dip, and they're both just kind of stuck, like they're stuck in neutral a little bit.
I take slight offense to you throwing us in the same category as Chelsea, because they are an absolute clown show right now. Like
they are.
Like Pulisic's hurt. They've got so many injuries. Bowley's come in and he's spending left and right. Kind of sounds a little like Forrest in that respect, but like, they're on another level of.
Forrest had to do it though.
Catastrophe. So does Chelsea.
Yeah.
So understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch because you don't have that Russian oligarch money the way that you used to. They're still spending, but it feels like things have gotten worse since they had to sell. So that was the key to the whole thing. Who knows? Do you have, if you're looking at I know you gave us Villa, but do you have do you have like a gold-plated bet that you love for this weekend?
Well, so quickly on that North London derby, like if you want to sprinkle on some props, like Harry Kane to score a penalty just feels like that could easily happen. Like if I was a guessing man, if I was a betting man, just in a hypothetical sense, I would probably say Arsenal 2-1. To Arsenal scores in the first half, Kane gets a penalty in like the 60th, and then Arsenal gets another one in the 80th, and that's how we lose. That's how I would just expect the game to go if you force me to say something. So Kane to score a penalty would be an interesting prop bet, I would say, in that game. In terms of the rest of the slate, yeah. So I mentioned Aston Villa and Leeds. That one is the game for me this weekend. There's another one, Brighton Liverpool, though. These are the games. I feel like I'm giving the same bet over and over again, but that's because I look for certain things. I look for games that I see goals in. I look for games that I see goals from both teams in. And that Brighton Liverpool game, to me, I mean, that screams my usual over and both teams to score. Liverpool, God knows what they're going to bring. But Van Dijk is now out for an extended period. I know that, their center back duo they're not in dire straits like they were a season or two ago in the center back situation, but still, you lose Van Dijk, you're going to take a step back defensively, and they weren't playing that well defensively before he left, right, before he got hurt. So that game screams goals, both teams to score. So I like that one. Wolves West Ham. I'll pray for you.
Relegation wars. Yeah. So Wolves West Ham is definitely one, and then Everton Southampton is another one.
Exactly. Yeah. These games are probably going to be atrocious, especially that Wolves West Ham game. Like that just looks like it's going to be absolute dog shit.
What happened to West
Ham? I don't know. Moyes, he seemed like he had a handle on things, and then it really got out of control quickly. It seems to be spiraling. Maybe you can get it back together because that team has a lot of talent. They should not be in 17th place right now. Even on points with Everton, who's in 18th. Like that team is way too good to be in that spot. So I don't know. I just that game itself though looks just absolutely atrocious. Wolves, anytime Wolves play, I'm just planning on not watching at this point. They got to get their stuff together because
that was a struggle. Even the League Cup, earlier this week for us, we went to penalties. It was exciting, but it was not like they don't even think about playing an attractive style. Like there are teams that like Brighton, I feel like is always a pretty good, aesthetically pleasing team to watch. Wolves has no interest in that.
Nope.
I do love. Like when they bring on Traore, though, who looks like he should be a running back for Alabama or LSU or something, when he comes on as a sub and everybody's just dog shit tired, it's like you're if you're playing against him, like you have like your butt clenches up. You're like, oh shit, like he's too fast, too strong. But outside of him, like they don't really have any guys that move the needle or play an exciting brand of footy. So then I guess that just brings me to Forest, and this is I know we talk about them a lot. I do feel like they've turned a corner. They're playing so much better than probably the last time we spoke. They're out of the relegation zone. They're at home Leicester. They got smoked by Leicester, which felt like that was going to be the nail in Steve Cooper's coffin. It wasn't. He signed an extension after that, and it feels like that's when they kind of took off. And so now that game, Forest has 17 points, Leeds has 17 points, Leicester has 17 points. Leicester's sitting 13th. So this is a game where you win this game and Leeds loses this afternoon. All of a sudden, you went from being like a surefire Forest are going down, Forest stink. What a disaster this experiment has been with all the spending to they're in 13th.
The middle of the table right now, the middle to the bottom of the table is so bunched.
It's so bunched. It really is. Well, there's only, Southampton, they're dead last. They have 12. So we're talking 2 wins from being up in that category of Leeds,
mid-table muddler. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I would love to be a mid-table team like that. 17th was always going to be good enough, and now it's like, okay, if you fill in, so they have so many injuries. Taiwo's out right now. Obviously, Niakate's been out. They've had key injuries at basically every level of their team, but they're still like cobbling it together. So they're going to need some, probably a striker in January, probably another center half, and then they got a midfielder in Danilo. I don't know how people can keep track of all these guys. You're like, oh, he's really good. Like, he's a 21-year-old who's never played anywhere but Brazil. Like, how do you know he's good? But that is like the transfer market just blowing my mind. Apparently he's worth 20 million. Sounds like a player. Great. And if they can just like, this is one of those games where we were talking about with Spurs, like you have to start winning some of these games, especially at home, to get where you want to be. And this feels like that spot for Forest, and maybe it slingshots them into some kind of run, because they only have 1 loss in their last 5 Premier League games. Like that's, if that's your run, 2 wins, 2 draws and a loss, you're a fucking good team. And I think, this is a critical juncture, like I said, because when you have, Manchester United in April, you got another game with Man City, you got another, like they have to get points where they're available, and it feels like it's available here. So I am actually betting Forest, and I'm betting Brennan Johnson to score.
Ooh, look at you.
Yeah. So I like that. And Brennan Johnson is their penalty taker. And it's one of those things where it's like, it feels like Taiwo is going to be out again. So they don't really have a striker, a pure one. So Gibbs White's going to be playing. Scarpa, have you had a chance to see him play at all?
Not really, no.
Okay. So he's one of these Brazilian guys they brought over. He's just a little different. Okay. Like he sees the game, like, and again, like I'm a novice, but the way that he plays these long balls perfectly out to the wing backs coming up, it's beautiful to watch. And he just kind of, you can tell like he's a different sort of thinker on the field. And he's always open by like 10 yards. And I feel like that can't be a coincidence either. Like he just, every time he receives the ball, it's like, oh, he's like, no one's around him. So he kind of is making things go a little bit offensively when he's out there. He was the only bright spot when they got smoked by Blackpool in the FA Cup. And he looked good coming on as a sub. So I think he's going to have to start, just because for all the shit that people gave Forrest about their signings because of injuries, now they have to play Scarpa as a starter. They just don't have anything else. So which is fine, because he's looking like a pretty talented and a different sort of player that they haven't had. So I'm excited for that game. That's at 9:00. So I like Forest at home. I think it's plus 175 right now. That's good enough value for me. And I think I'm gonna bet Everton too. I think Southampton's just dead. Everton's at home. They're plus 120 at home. They're just as desperate as Southampton to get out of that relegation zone. So it's not like one team's going to be sleepwalking while the other team's fighting tooth and nail. That feels like a spot where Everton gets a win. So those are really my 2 bets: Forest and Everton. Just slumming it at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, you're really looking down table. Well,
I live down table. That's my existence. I live down table.
There's nothing wrong with being down table in the Premier League. The other games that I sort of have in my mind, Chelsea and Palace. You can get Palace right now. Palace on the road, granted.
Mm-hmm.
You can get Palace for plus 440 against this Chelsea team. And I know that, like, Palace, at some point, I know Palace is bad, not great. I'm not going to call them bad, but they're not great.
They're not playing well. We should say that.
Is Chelsea?
No, but Chelsea, like I like Chelsea's talent and I like him at home. But again, I don't know anything, but it's that one to me is like it's a battle of two teams not playing well. So I'm staying away from it.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
maybe the way to play that one would be, and this wouldn't be like sort of a best bet level type wager, but maybe Palace plus half a goal or something, because then you can get the draw and the Palace. Like maybe that would probably interest me a little
you want to
bit.
see what the double chance is on that?
Yeah, what do you got for us?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Double chance for Palace or draw plus 123. That's not great.
Not great. Not enough.
Great.
I'm just gonna stay away from that game. I got enough action. It's wild card weekend too. Any final thoughts here?
No, I think first of all, I got to give Fulham a shout out. Ream team, they're up in what is it, 6th place, I think, at the moment. God, well done, Fulham. Everybody had them in the relegation zone coming into the season. Ream team is just, he's just Ream team. That's all you got to say about that. So shout out to them. I do think that they're probably going to get worked this weekend by Newcastle, but still shout out to Fulham.
I don't think that they're going to get worked by anybody all year long. I feel like the sample size is big enough now where it's like I've been like the guy banging the drum for Newcastle. I think it's going to be a competitive game. Newcastle probably wins, but I don't think it's going to be like some where it's Man City against Forest where it's 6-0 or something like that. I think Newcastle's Fulham's going to be in just about every game all year long.
Let's see. I think Newcastle wins that game by more than 1 goal.
Okay. All right. We'll keep an eye on that one too. All right. Yeah. And they're right in your rear view mirror too. So,
I mean, they'll be in our front view mirror if they're in our rear view at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. So that's it for this week. Match day 20, Limbs. Sam, thanks for coming back. We'll see you guys again next week. All right. I got to go turn it off. Sorry, no, you're good. It's still live.